To get things started, Blair, I'm going to start with you. The 21st Century Talent Regions, that should light up, there you go. And Blair, tell us a little bit about the talent regions and where we're at.
Well, it has been a fascinating journey with 21st Century Talent Regions thus far that I've had a chance to visit with many folks. That we started out in January with the idea that we could offer up a designation for regions that are building and implementing a plan for attracting, developing, and connecting talent as measured by population growth, education attainment levels, specifically looking at post-secondary, and median household income, or sort of variations on that theme that we've looked at per capita personal income, average weekly earnings as a part of that. So very similar metrics to identify how people are moving up the spectrum in economic mobility. And thus far, we have had 2 designations. We actually just set a date for our 3rd, which will be in the southwestern area of the Uplands. And so looking forward to being able to celebrate with them. And through this process, bringing together folks that are in business, economic development, workforce development, K-12 education, higher education, local government, and nonprofits, and how they get represented, then we're really ambivalent towards, but wanting to make sure that we're bringing all of those different stakeholders together. And what we've learned thus far is that it's been, I think, helpful for some regions that are in the process of really starting to build that collaboration amongst all those different team members, and for some places that may be more mature in some of that regional identity, regional collaboration, then the feedback I've heard is that it's been helpful in identifying how they're going to achieve some of the goals that have been set forward, and really stratifying, what are some of those specific milestones we have to hit all along the way. And we've got, like I said, 2 designated already, a 3rd here, soon to be designated. I think we've got probably 11 more in the hopper of folks that we are working with. And because of the momentum that we've seen thus far, we are now working with the Lumina Foundation, that they have been very supportive of this work. We've learned a lot from them along the way through their talent hub models. And so now through that partnership, we are going to have the opportunity to actually grow the reach and think a little bit further around how do we support backbone organizations that are driving this collaborative work, and ensure we're providing the right kinds of tools and sustainable support to really deepen that collaboration that the regions are working with. And so this is all a learning experiment for us, that this is a new space for Lumina as well. And so we're all very excited to continue figuring some of these pieces out as to how we meet people where they are, and ensure that we're providing the right kind of support to ensure that collaboration is able to help us achieve the goals that we set for ourselves in growing the population, education attainment levels, and median household income. And I'll be happy to answer further questions about that later.
Okay, thanks, Blair. And Bill Turner, tell us about Skillful and where we're at today in the coaching core.
Sure. So first, this will help me understand where Skillful is in Indiana. How many of you have heard of Skillful in Indiana and know? That's not bad. I know I'm talking to the group that I've always talked to, so that kind of helps. But that's part of what we're trying to do, is get information out about what Skillful Indiana does. Those that have not heard about Skillful, what it is we're trying to get people to look at skills and competencies whenever possible for jobs versus degrees and certificates. So if the job does not require a degree or certificate, we're asking employers to take that off their job description. Put in the skills and competencies that you want people to have, because what we found out through research and through Colorado is the first state that Skillful launched in. We just launched in January here, or at least I started in January. One of the things we found out is that if you can remove that from the job description, you then open the pool. We heard Commissioner Payne talk about 3.3% unemployment. We heard Angela talk about the fact that certain neighborhoods, certain demographics, that is much higher. We think that and we know that when you open up that talent pool, we help employers, but we also help those individuals looking for jobs or a better career. And so we have tools. We are a resource to Indiana. We are here to help employers. We have tools that we use to help employers change their job descriptions. We know that can be time consuming, so we offer the tools and the training. And the other piece of it is, you mentioned the coaching core. we say, okay, employers, here's how we think you might want to change your job description to open it up to more people. How about how do people know to look at those skills? So we have the Governor's Coaching Corps. And the Governor's Coaching Corps is where we took 35 career coaches, and career coaches could be anybody from, if you're Work One Center, could be somebody at Goodwill, Ivy Tech, etc., from around the state, and put them through an 8-month intense training program. They meet 5 times in that 8 months for 2 days each, and it is really intense. The manager of our coaching institute, Tracy Everett, is sitting right down here. She really hammers home information to them. But it's good because it helps them with their personal and professional development, but then they can then turn around and help the job seeker on the other side. Recognize the skills they have, and then showcase those skills in order to try to match up with jobs. So still a 3-pronged approach. That's the employer. We try to get them to change what they're looking for. We're talking about the job seeker, trying to get them involved. Oh, I gotta throw this in. So the 35 coaches from around the state, there are more career coaches than that in the state. So we also launched a community of practice for all career coaches. So anybody, if you know any coaches, high school, Goodwill, whatever, if they're helping somebody on a better career pathway, they can plug into this community. And what it does is it allows them to talk to other folks doing similar jobs. So if they run across a case or an issue that they've never seen before, somebody in the field may have seen it and can then help them out pretty quickly. We also do monthly webinars for that group, so that way that they have a chance to learn, maybe not as intense as the coaching core, but they still get a chance to learn more things that they not from professional development. The third piece, and then I'll change it over, we talk about, we have to work with the educators. So we talk about the employers, we talk about the actual job seekers with the career coach, and then we also work with education. So we work with the Commission on Higher Education, along with their credentialing platform that they're building out, as well as JDX, the Job Data Exchange from the U.S. Chamber Foundation. So we're trying to find out what are the skills employers need, that's the JDX piece. Then we're trying to find out what is the coursework and curriculum being created at the different post-secondary schools, that's what credentialing is. And we're trying to marry all those together so that as an employer, if you're looking at somebody that has a degree, that once we get this all built out, they know that they have the core content of that degree, but also skills and competencies that employers have asked for. So it's a 3-pronged approach. We're here just for resource work. We're not trying to tell you to change anything you don't want to change, but we're here to help, and we're willing to go all over the state to do that.
Thanks, Bill. I want to call a quick time out about getting the good word out. We've talked about collaboration and getting the word out, and I know both of these two do an excellent job with Twitter, and we appreciate that, because I know when we put something out, Blair, your office, there's a very good chance that's going to move and take on another whole life of its own. We very much appreciate that. Same with you, Bill, and we like to reciprocate. So, and I think, again, you guys do a wonderful job with that, and we appreciate it. We were here not 5 minutes, and I got a tweet from Scott Sanders, who was ready to push something out, and I also just got something from Commissioner Payne and Fred. And Scott mentioned the local executive director sharing the best practices, so keep it up. Again, it's a tool we didn't have 5 or 10 years ago, but getting the word out certainly has been working, and just wanted to throw that in as my phone was lighting up. So with that, Todd Garrison, and tell us about the Indiana-Kentucky partnership, kind of a high-level view of that. What's going on there?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Todd Garrison. I'm the current chair with the Region 10 Southern Indiana Workforce Board. And our example that I'm going to share for us this morning, we appreciate the opportunity.
Sure.
Is what we call bi-state planning. And in summary, this is an initiative where we collaborate across state lines in order to affect workforce for our regional basis. And to explain this initiative to you, let me touch on some basic points. I want to give you some background and some evolution over the last 15 years or so on how we got from where we were to where we are today. I'd like to share with you about the process that we've gone through, as well as our current state and goals and actually challenges that we see going forward. So in terms of background, the local MSA is comprised of a population of 1.3 million people. The workforce is 800,000. It consists of 13 states, not states, but 13 counties, 6 on the Indiana side and 7 on the Kentucky side. In Indiana, that includes Clark, Floyd, Harrison, Scott, Washington. And gosh, I got all of them in there. I'm glad I did that. At any rate, we have a long history in the area of working together in many ways. But a key thing to keep in mind is that we are separated by a river. We're separated through our region with 2 state lines. We're separated in some regards with 2 Department of Labor regional boundaries. We have multiple municipalities, and specific to this conversation, we have 2 workforce boards. We have a history with our sister workforce board in Kentucky, called Kentucky on a Workspace out of Louisville, to work on projects and initiatives together. And this has been occurring for over a period of 15 years. And during that time frame, we've been able to build relationships, particularly between our executive directors, our team leaders, but also amongst our staffs, and to a certain extent amongst our boards. That fact has left us to a point where, in the context that our region is under rapid growth, we have a lot mutually that's done across boundaries from an economic development perspective, from an education perspective, from a transportation perspective. Key workforces are recent to Bridget, we're all familiar with that. We defined our challenge as how might we, as 2 separate board entities, better partner to better affect workforce across our boundaries. And how might we do that both at a convening level, but also at a street service delivery level. And that's really the heart of what our effort is about. So in approximately 2017, we came together as a group, particularly again led by our directors and other key board members, and we said, let's see what we can do with this. That developed into a scope of work where we identified a consultant who came in and facilitated us through a planning process for the planning process, if you will. Next step was we formalized surveying and interviews through key stakeholders from all of our communities. That's on both sides of the river, Kentucky and Indiana. And that included representatives from economic development, education, government, business, and so forth. Also, a lot of our service delivery people. And we then used that information as an input to develop our plan. We had several planning discussions that were facilitated by our consultant. Ultimately, we came together with a plan in the summer of this year. And some of the priorities for the plan are how can we grow our college and career readiness in K-12 schools. Key point, we have a lot of great things already happening in our community in education, but also there are other schools that could use some assistance. Another key is how might we better improve apprenticeship and credentialing within our region. How can we expand the labor force? One of our key constraints from an economic development perspective is a shortage of population. We don't have enough people to meet the future business demands. How might we help people re-enter the workforce that come from other avenues to do that? Last but not least, a key priority is how might we create, through a templated manner, a plan where we can work together as partners. This is not a merger, it's a partnership, it's a collaboration, it's a working together, where ultimately we can be recognized under WIOA as a federal planning district, which has certain benefits from leveraging our economies of scale to being able to achieve more federal funding, we hope. So that's been kind of our backdrop and our process today. Our experience has been that it has taken a lot of work. We're satisfied with where we are, and now we're to the point where we've pulled together a core team who's beginning to meet to affect our plan and move forward. So that's our current example.
Thanks, Todd. I want to bring it back over this end with Bill. And Bill, talk a second about some of the challenges you may have faced, now that you're a year plus into it, some of the challenges you faced, lessons learned. If you were starting out today, things you might have done a little differently and that people can maybe learn from.
So one of the things that we learned It's how to use a microphone, I guess. So one of the things that I think, the challenge, you're going to say, well, that's not a big, I think one of the challenges is that we're trying to affect system change, and I know that's what Blair's trying to do, connecting all the dots and everything together with her office, but we're also trying to affect system change and changing the way people look for talent. The other challenge I would say is that people think that we're anti-degree or anti-certificate, and that's not the case. We're just saying if a job doesn't need it, don't put it on the job description, because in that way it makes people turn off right away. I don't have that degree, so I'm not going to apply. But they may be your best employee that you're not bringing in the door. So some of the challenges is just getting the word out and getting people to understand what we have to offer. Again, we're not here to make you change anything you're doing, but we want to help you if you want the help. We're willing to go to any place around the state to do that. I think one of the things we found out that as we went through this as a challenge, we don't go door to door. We are a mighty team of 3 for the state. So we can't go to every employer. So we work through intermediaries like the workforce boards or other organizations, and we help train your folks to do this work. What we found, though, is I think we're finding that as we train people, we do need more help to help those that we've trained, because we don't want to leave people out there floundering and trying and not knowing how to do our work. I don't, Indiana, to be honest with you, I think Indiana, as you go around and listen to other states, although we say, we look at our internal issues and things that are holding us back, maybe, or challenges, but man, we're a long way away, we're a long ways ahead when you look at what we're doing for workforce development, how we're coming together. And again, I think part of it is DWD with Commissioner Pinker, as well as Blair with her office. So I think when we look at the things that we're struggling with, I think we have to also look, man, Indiana, we're doing some really good things now. The workforce cabinet, we're really doing good things now. So I think I don't know if we change, I think we would maybe come to Indiana first.
Sure.
Instead of going to Colorado first.
Sure. Thanks, Bill. Blair, same question. With success, it doesn't get there without challenges and obstacles and lessons learned. Share some of the stuff that may have had.
I think we continue to learn the nuances of each region and understanding that models that we may be learning from some of the areas in other parts of the state may not be directly applicable to other regions that we're working with. And so that's a process that we identify as we go through it. And I think it's been a learning curve for all of us, and certainly in trying to get the word out with the various partners that we're trying to work with, that this is not a state program that was the kind that I would get frustrated with when I was in the mayor's office and the state coming to say, hey, I got a really good idea for you to do. Let me know when you're done with it, and then we'll be all set. And so we've tried to be very intentional about saying we really want to be partners with each of the regions wherever they're at, and understanding that the product of this initiative is really kind of a process. It's changing some of the way that we interact with one another to hopefully build that sense of shared purpose amongst the region and shared sense of trust amongst all of the different partners. And so really building off of great work that many of our regions have already done. And so we've had to work through that. We're not trying to replace any strategic plans. In fact, let's use those and then dig further into how we build upon some of the great work that's happening there already to identify what are the deeper levels that need to take place here, potentially through an equity lens and how we're identifying different strategies. How do we better engage some of the partners that then can ensure that we're delivering the results that we've set through, or the goals that we've set through some of the initiatives that may be in place through strategic plans already. So I think kind of working through that process to understand that this model is looking at things a little bit differently than some typical models that we may think of different types of state programs, that it really is truly about building out what the region's going to need. And then I think it's pretty fun to get to learn in that process as to what is that going to be that's a little bit different for each area. And I think the last challenge that I'm actually very excited to have, kind of building on what Bill was just mentioning, of looking kind they can engage with some of these pieces. And so we've actually joked, but I don't think that it's going to be a joke for much longer, saying we maybe need to do a stakeholder engagement process of just all these different national partners to understand kind of who's in what different space here to be able to ensure that we're aligning all of our work appropriately to communicate to all the different partners in Indiana and now nationally who are wanting to engage with us and innovate with us because of things like Skillful Indiana, because of the Kentuckiana Works partnerships where we are leading the way in a number of different areas, none of which would be possible without the tremendous leadership that we have within our region. So hugely thankful for everyone for all that work and creating the challenges that we're now facing that are the best kinds of challenges, I think, to have in this work.
Thanks, Blair. And Todd, I want to turn this a little bit different direction for you. If you could talk about the sessions on collaboration with education and elected officials, some of the things that you had to go through to get through that and how that process went.
Well, I'll tell you, here's what our experience has been, is that there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Here's what our experience has been, is that the reaction from key stakeholders has been, this makes sense. And it actually caused us to pause, because in certain ways going into the initiative, we expected that we might need to spend a certain amount of time trying to influence people that this regional focus is a good idea. I think that was birthed in a lot of our regional differences over the prior years. But the actual reaction was, whether it was from educators, business people, government officials, what have you, the reaction was that it made sense. In terms of our process, it was a relatively easy process, a straightforward process with all community coalition builders, where we had a facilitated approach focused on acting on the feedback from the survey, developing our priorities, action plans, and so forth. Ultimately, that's embedded into a plan which we signed off jointly between our two boards this past summer. And it's that foundational plan that we're working from going forward. The other important experience that I'd like to share with you is that the support we received is great. And I think this is a case example in a local idea that's incubating and is now getting support from both the state and the federal level. A shout out I'd like to give is that we are receiving good assistance from our partners in the workforce at the state level and also at the federal level to help us weave through some of the technicalities and the structure for our future planning efforts. So that's been our kind of process.
Okay. Thanks, Todd. Let's keep it on the subject of elected officials. I know each of the 12 regions have an elected official on there, and Blair is a former mayor. Can you talk just a second about the importance of those collaborations and any recommendations for the regions here in working with their elected officials?
I think that as many of you probably experienced, that the engagement from different elected officials can vary just dependent upon priorities that they may have and fires they have to put out on a day-to-day basis. And so there's, my sense is a growing recognition, though, amongst many of the different folks about the importance of this work. And I think that has to do with what we've seen happen with the economy, the labor force overall. And so I think there's a growing awareness around the need to be engaged and then the opportunity for elected officials to be a part of driving innovation, driving change in their communities. I think the struggle that I felt I faced and some of my peers felt we faced, we weren't sure how to engage. I'll be blunt that as a member of the SWIC, even at one point, I didn't understand how the regional boards worked, and that was as somebody who was engaged in workforce development as an elected official. And so I would give a ton of credit to all of you and to the DWD team that I see in my travels, seemingly a lot more engagement and understanding of some of the process. And it's hard to get that engagement to take place because it's a complicated system that we've built through the layers of some of the federal pieces, some of the state pieces, the external sources, and so it's understandable about how it's not always clear cut to understand how this process and the system all works. And so, to the extent that just having that constant, just sending information out to everybody, it seems like the elected officials that are part of the different boards are helping share the word amongst the other elected officials, and so that helps get the word out amongst people and engage folks further. And so I see, just from my viewpoint here, knowing kind of where my sense of it was prior, and now being in this position and continuing to engage with some of my colleagues, that it seems like there's been a lot of great work done on really engaging more elected officials, and I think that's a big tribute to you all, and also then to things that are happening in our economy and wanting to have those leaders be more involved. And so I would only anticipate that their engagement would continue to grow as they want to continue being a part of this solution.
Thanks, Blair. I'm curious, do we have, from our 12 regions, are there any elected officials here from our 12? Okay, we've got a couple. Okay, well, hey, again, thanks for coming. Bill Turner, the importance of working with the legislature and elected officials from your office, anything that you can share on that?
Actually, that's one area we're really trying to work.
It's me.
I think it is you.
I think it's me. It's always reboot.
Does that work? Yeah. So I think that's something we're working on. We at Skillful, we have what we call the Skillful State Network, and that Skillful State Network is made up of 27 governors from across the U.S. And we come together to talk about, as Secretary Milo was saying, the different things that are happening in their states and how can we share and collaborate. And so Skillful looked at that and saying, hey, that's one way to get in touch with the legislation or elected officials. But the other piece is, like I said, I will talk to anybody that wants to do something with workforce development or like a new idea. And so I've been actually reaching out personally to elected officials and talking to them one-on-one about what Skillful can do, because I think, and those that are elected can let me know, now I'm not a state representative, I am an elected official, a school board member. So I try to reach out to people and say, hey, this is what Skillful is. See what you think you can do to build that in, maybe into policy, maybe into something that you're working on, to say, hey, how can we look at skills and competencies as we work on workforce development? So that's how I see it. It's really just an education piece, as I'm trying to do with legislators as well as anyone else around the state.
Okay, and as we start to wrap up, Bill, I'm going to do the safe thing and keep the microphone with you. So if you can look ahead a little bit, like what can we expect from Skillful in the next year ahead and beyond, looking at the crystal ball a little bit.
So with Skillful, I think what you're going to start to see is, as they're starting to come in, you're going to start to see this process work. We have employers that are starting to use our tools. We have employers that are starting to hire based on those tools. And we're also starting to see career coaches. Again, the graduating class of that first cohort, those first 35, is the first week of November. They will graduate over here to the Marriott downtown. And what I did mention earlier is that group, when they first were assigned, they were selected from across the state. Once they were put into that program, they were also assigned a task. They were also assigned an action team where they had to work on a statewide topic and then do the research, come up with suggestions for improvement. They're going to do that report out. They're going to do all the report outs on November 7th. And so they're going to talk to state leaders. I think you're on there. Not you need to be here. We're going to talk to state leaders to say, hey, here's what the coaches think might be something that can work. What can you take from what we've learned and then take it back to the man? And I'm almost done, so I'll stop. Yes, sir. So to the question of where we see this going, I think we're going to start the broadcast, and then really to your point, whatever the case may be, some success stories, and we're already starting to get those in, and I think once we get those in, from both the employer side as well as the job seeker side, we have a lot of job seeker successes from people changing the way they do their resume and look for jobs based on their skills. It's already starting to move, so that's what we're doing.
Good. Blair, even with you, looking ahead, your office?
Well, now with the opportunity to partner with Lumina a little further, then we started with the idea of doing pilot regions, and with the chance to have access to some additional resources, we thought it would be great if we could actually do this statewide, to have every part of the state be a part of some region, self-defined, and so that, or maybe multiple regions that different areas are a part of, so that then we're developing that further infrastructure, particularly around communications, for people to stay routinely engaged in the work that has to happen, and their role within the work that we're doing, and so that then we're strengthening the I think results that we can deliver by having constant engagement amongst all those different partners that I talked about, beginning with of workforce development, economic development, the schools, the businesses, all these different players that we are working with, so that then you have continuous results that are coming forward, and we can then move the needle in some, I think, really not only critical areas, but really kind of larger ways that's hard to do in these complex kinds of subjects that we're working on. So we'd love to be able to have the entire state be a part of a region, or regions plural, however that may take shape, depending upon the design of the regions overall. And I think that we're going to see also some stronger ability to support that work through the Indiana Talent Networks, which for those of you who may not have had a chance to engage, it is a network of networks, and that it's providing sort of that same line of what Bill was talking about with the career coaching core and that community of practice. Similar community of practice amongst the regional leaders and backbones and the organizations that may be in different capacities, maybe in workforce development, maybe in the nonprofit world, maybe in economic development. And so providing continued support that way, and having a lot more information, and have learned a lot more about how we better support that kind of organic organization and leadership overall. So those are just a couple of pieces I would see coming forward.
Thanks, Blair. And that guy at the beginning that talked about the importance of staying on time. Todd, 30 seconds about the Indiana-Kentucky partnership.
Well, the thought that comes to mind, Bob, is that as all of us in this room, or most of us, I'm sure, have been through with large, complex initiatives, we've been through the conceptual phase where we have all buy-in. The challenge becomes that next step, which is the implementation and execution phase, as our plan matures and we move into the future. Even as what we're here today, and a lot of the conversations are very helpful, is that a lot of what we're doing is truly based on relationships, trust, and partnerships. And a lot of our effort will continue to feature having a core team, having sub-teams, having people in a creative environment where they can work together. Am I the first person to get that tonight? Bob, you set me up for that. Okay, I'm done.
Let's round of applause.